agenda, PLPC 2022-0093 for 868 8th Avenue and PLPC 2022-0043 for 37 First Street. Typically, we'll take action on these as a group. Has anyone from the public come to speak on either of these or present on either of these items? Again, that's PLPC 93 and what was the last one? 43. No? Okay. Commissioners, were there any comments or discussion you wanted to have before we take motions? Nothing? Bill? All good? Okay. Then I will take a motion to pass each of these, to pass each of these consent items.
I move to approve the consent agenda as a whole.
Okay, moving to a vote. Bill?
Aye.
James?
Yes.
Suzanne? Anthony?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. The motion passes. Okay. Moving on to old business. The first item is PLPC 2022-0011 for 487 Campbell Avenue. Has the applicant come to present? Okay. Hello. Sure.
We should just have Eric hold them up.
I like that idea too.
Maybe that's where you're headed, Eric.
I see 94 was removed and 96 was moved to new business.
While he's getting set up, I have a question for you, Andy. Are you familiar with the EAF mapper requirement on the seeker process?
I'm familiar with the EAF mapper.
Uh,
I don't know that it's a requirement. I do see some applications on the agenda this evening that apparently weren't utilized by the EAF mapper.
Right.
It's missing those pages on the back. I think as a policy, you would want applicants to utilize the mapper because there is embedded information in that system that may get missed by the applicant in their voluntary answers.
Right.
Yeah.
From what I understand, which is not as good as what you understand, is in January 2020, I thought it was required of applicants to use the EAF mapper for all New York State.
And that may be the case.
I mean, I'm asking because
We have a link to it on our website.
Right.
That's what we recommend.
Yeah, it's in the instructions. I
When
remember.
I noticed that hasn't been used, so I would ask that would be used. I've also been interested in myself.
Yeah.
Obviously.
That's why they're not doing it, because you're known. No, I mean, I'm asking specifically because, when we start looking at sites like this one where there are more environmental considerations, it's something that I go and look for in the packet.
Yeah, and if you're like me, sometimes you skip to the pages at the end first to see what picked up before you read the document itself.
I'm not like you.
Oh, all right. I will start at the end sometimes to see what it's flagged before I read there.
Yeah.
This project, this particular project, but this is.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay,
I still go and look for the site plan amendment.
go for it.
It's on the bottom.
Sorry, while you're doing that, we did have a comment regarding the item 2022-94 on the Zoom being on the consent agenda. It's been moved to the new business agenda, so we are going to get to that item, but after old business. That was to the member of the public who commented. Sorry.
Yep, no
Good.
problem. Is it up? There it goes. Okay, so back in May, we got approval for a 3-story mixed use on the parcel located at 487 Campbell Ave. It was commercial on the first floor and apartments on the second and third. And you can see the old site plan here. We used to have a drive through on the side of the building, kind of had a drive around with the parking at the rear of the building. So we're back to change the use of the building. It's going to be 3 stories of apartments now, so it's strictly apartments, no mixed use. And we made some changes to the site plan once we made a change to the actual use. And this is the current site plan. So we eliminated the drive around the building. We only have green space on the front and sides of the building now. We also relocated it to the east about 10 feet or so to better center it in the space between the existing driveway and the property line on the east. And we cleared up some more space for the sidewalk that extends in. It's a proposed sidewalk to extend in from existing sidewalks on Campbell Ave to the parking in the rear. You can see it on the site plan. If you guys have looked at it, I'm sure. And so now we have 12 units instead of 8 like before. So we are required to have 24 parking spaces, which we have all 24 now. And the commercial story on the first floor was much higher. So we lowered that down to a residential height. So the building came down about 5 feet. And then essentially just the only thing that changed with the architecture is we had larger storefronts on the first floor. Those are now apartments. So those are now utilizing like residential windows and doors. So the building style basically stayed the same without the commercial storefronts. So that's really it for the changes. So we're just here for the modifications. And if you have any questions or comments.
Just a little bit more information. I don't know if it was stated that the ZBA a few weeks ago had to approve the residential use on the first floor, and they did that. Although the building did decrease in height, it's still over the height threshold for the area. They have a height variance. They received the variance for the previous rendition of the building. So the only thing that remains is your approval this evening. For the new members, if assuming you familiarize yourself with the previous meetings, but just a reminder that the drive-through for this building was a big sticking point on the original one, and now that's been eliminated because it's residential for all 3 floors.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll open up to commissioners. Do we want to get into any questions before public comment?
Well, just to be clear, this being treated as a new application, correct?
No, it's a modification to an existing approval.
Okay.
For what it's worth, it's an unlisted action.
So I'm just looking back at the drawings that you submitted back in March, and regarding what you said about the windows. So am I to understand that the windows would just continue down the way they were at the second and third stories to the first story?
Correct.
And it would all be exactly the same?
Correct.
I don't know if any of the other commissioners want to take a look. So I've got
Is this- Yes, thank you. Is this rendering? Oh, sorry, I have
you
it,
have it up.
Anthony. I have the old design. Is what's on the board the new rendering with residential on the first story?
Yes. Yeah, there should be no storefront on the
Oh, I
first
see.
floor.
Okay, so I'll come up and look at that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so it's,
Okay, and I'm thrilled that there's no drawing.
Yes, that's, I think, a big improvement on the site. Okay, I didn't see he had it.
Am I on that? Okay.
It wasn't in the PDF that I downloaded.
Yeah, I downloaded it.
I don't know why.
This apartment.
It was added later.
I'm assuming you've got quadrants, right? Okay, that apartment. Pretty close. Okay.
Yeah, we just have the site map. We don't have any,
That's all. So not the rendering.
any renderings.
Yeah, I didn't, you know what, I didn't. I don't have, I didn't.
I was looking at the March one. Yeah. This is for March with the commercial space.
Sarah, would you mind just going back through it since we went on mic? On microphone,
What my comments were?
yes.
Okay. I'm delighted that there's no drive-through. And I have confirmed that, and anyone interested should take a look at that image, but there's no longer the storefront style windows on level 1, that the siding and window styles extend from the 2nd and 3rd floors all the way down to the 1st floor of the building. So there's a consistent looking facade in the residential style. I'll put it that way.
Could you tell us where the trash area is for the building?
Yes, so there's an
Dumpster.
existing dumpster in the back of the property on the north side.
Yeah, right there.
Oh,
No
okay,
change.
yep, no change from that.
We're going to be utilizing that.
Okay, and then is there any crosswalk striping planned for the entrance there?
Is there existing striping across the driveway? Yeah, so there's an existing crosswalk that's striped across the entrance drive. So other than that, no, we don't have any planned for the new phase because we have a new sidewalk that extends back into the site.
I'm going to make sure I understand what you just said. So because I don't have a drive-through now, I can, if I don't drive a car, I can leave my apartment and just follow sidewalk without the need for a crosswalk and head.
North.
Thank you. I'm looking for a north arrow.
It would be east if your east is drawing right.
To the right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great. One comment I would make, and I think it's my only comment, is that particularly because the 1st floor is now residential, some landscaping buffer would be really
I was
nice.
gonna say the same thing, and I see some landscaping shown on that print that doesn't appear on ours.
But even at the front of the building.
But yes, especially at
Yeah.
the front of the building.
Yeah, they're saying like, like the actual landscaping with bushes and
Roadside,
I would say
Um,
street trees specifically.
street.
I don't know if anybody else has anything in
Great.
mind.
yeah, like.
Yeah, I think a tree would be good.
Yeah, but I would say a planting bed in front of the building too, just to have some sort of buffer.
Yeah.
Because there's a light. Is there a light there?
Well, I would think that the green space being lawn is all right because then residents can walk through or use it at any point if needed. If they want to, I don't think they're going to want to sit out there and look at Campbell Ave, but if it's not something to walk around, I would say would be ideal. Something
Yeah,
that they
I-
could cut through.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting it be like a little courtyard garden, just a planting bed of something to
Yeah.
create some buffer, visual buffer. So that when I'm sitting at the light and looking to the left on my way home, I'm not looking into somebody's living room.
What
Because
is
it's at grade.
what is the building frontage on Campbell? Roughly
71 feet,
71.
71 feet wide.
I would recommend something like, I don't know, at least a few deciduous trees would be nice to have street tree plantings that would create some sort of buffer and help with traffic calming in some way. And not gonna make a huge impact on that on Campbell Ave, but it's gonna be nicer, I would say. What was that? Oh yeah, I'm not talking loud enough into this microphone.
Any other commissioner comments? I'd agree. I'd also like to see plantings along it would be south edge of the green space then. Is that what you're referring to, Sarah?
Yeah.
That southern edge that
Yeah.
has a bend, that kind of chamfer to it there?
Yeah, some shrubs maybe.
I think so. It's pretty desolate on
Yeah.
that stretch. So I wouldn't limit it to trees. I think trees are
Agreed.
they're a need, but something to
Yeah, and this
create some lushness, some texture.
Get some boxwood or something.
So it sounds like those being our only comments, with if the applicant's amenable to that, we'd be able to take action here.
Do we need a committee?
I don't think so.
Street tree committee, that's a
Well,
good idea.
Who's gonna look at the landscaping plan?
I'm looking at them.
Sure, I mean, that sounds agreeable. I mean, some, 2.5-inch caliper, street trees along, I'd say 3, something like that.
That's fine, yeah. Is that all? Did y'all catch that?
Yeah. Good. Happy?
Yes.
Okay, so back to actions. This is unlisted. So anyone want to make a motion?
I think because this is an amendment to a previously approved site plan that you had neg decked, it doesn't sound to me like they have increased any threshold that you've previously reviewed. They've reduced the number of parking spaces required. They reduced the number of the traffic trips without the commercial. They've increased the number of residential, but I don't know that exceeds a threshold that would require additional secret review. So in summary, I think you can make a determination that this amendment falls within the threshold you've already approved under secret, which wouldn't require an additional negative declaration.
Okay, do we have to put that in an action form or motion form?
Yeah, if you agree with the analysis that this complies with the original secret determination, do it as a motion.
Okay, so I will make a motion that the current presentation and applicant's proposal does not substantively change our previous neg deck on secret action.
Yeah,
Any
I would-
seconds?
I would second that. I think that overall the changes to the site plan have improved it, the reduced need for parking. And particularly the loss of the drive-through, which I think is a particular concern for the traffic flow of the site, particularly the pedestrian crossing. So I'm happy to second that.
I think the second half of the motion would be that it does not change our negative declaration, that we maintain our negative declaration.
Correct.
Okay. So hearing a second, we'll move to a vote. Bill?
I'm in favor.
James?
Yes.
Suzanne?
Yes.
Anthony?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
And I vote yes, the motion passes. Okay.
I apologize if this is too late, but is there a message in the chat regarding this proposal?
Could you open the chat?
No, I think it was the.
Yeah, I think the-
15 second,
Okay.
and then the yes, okay, I heard.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I didn't open for public comment again, but I think we're good. Okay. So they'll also need site plan approval again, correct?
It would be a motion to approve the amendment.
Okay, so with the condition of the planting bed along the southern edge of the green space along Campbell Ave, I would make a motion that we amend or modify our site, agree to modify the site plan approval per their current proposal.
Approve the amendment to the site.
Approve the amendment to the site plan. Thank you for the language.
I'll second, but I guess I just want to clarify that the condition is that they come up with a planting plan and they submit it to city staff for approval. So as long as city staff approves whatever planting plan you come up with, that will satisfy that condition.
Thank you.
I second.
Okay. Moving to a vote. Bill,
I'm in favor.
James,
Yes.
Suzanne,
Yes.
Anthony,
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
I also vote yes, so the motion passes. You're all set.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next item on old business is PLPC 2022-0078 for the Troy Atrium. The applicant has come to give updates.
What's that?
Setting up the IT side right now.
Let's see.
Thank you, everyone, for bearing with me as I learn all the correct way to phrase the motions.
We've done that.
The worst is when they ask me to repeat it.
Can
Can you write it down?
Okay, thanks, Eric. You're the host again, right? When you logged in, you became host.
Bill, are you in like some cabin or something?
I am, but it's top secret. No, that's it. The reason I'm not there today is we had a propane leak up here at my little place in the Adirondacks. Oh, that's helpful.
All right, he can't see the board.
Let me know when I'm good to go.
You're good to go.
I'm good to go.
Good.
Good evening. My name is Brian Ostrow with Environmental Design Partnership. I'll try to keep this brief tonight. This is just really an update. We had a fairly extensive discussion at the September Planning Commission meeting. I know a couple of commissioners were away. I just want to give you a quick update. We had presented a revised application from a year ago for the southern portion of what's commonly referred to as the Atrium property. Let's see. So there were three kind of main comments that we took away from the September 2022 meeting that we had. One is there was a pretty strong desire to add retail and activation along Broadway at the street level. Originally in the application that we had presented in September, a lot of that was kind of visually open into parking areas. And so, there was a strong desire to kind of activate that pedestrian thoroughfare along Broadway. There was a question about getting an easement along the northern portion of the property to access what would become a new exterior wall for the city-owned atrium space in the middle of the project, which we did speak with the developer, and that certainly can be accommodated. And then there was a heavy discussion on the architectural elements and the understanding that we would have to present this because we're in the historic district to HRC. And so just to give you an idea why we keep getting this middle screen, but anyways, the upper left is the previous plan that was submitted, and you can see that there's kind of parking shown there with openings along the Broadway side. Kind of a updated concept plan that we've been advancing with SRA is shown in the bottom right. And as you can see, we're reworking that space now to eliminate the parking and you know, and carry through retail space. Maybe it's just the slideshow, Eric. There it goes. Oh, popped up again.
I'm not exactly.
I've never
sure.
seen that before.
Yeah,
either.
never
Yeah,
Try
sure.
resharing just the, instead of sharing the screen.
The
share just
application.
application. Or if you're doing that, try sharing the whole screen.
I'm gonna stop the share for real quick.
It seems like it's Zoom thinking something's going on. We've only had 2.5 years to figure it out, right? Change the technology.
Right, there. This one here.
Hey.
Great, thank you. So yeah, again, just to go over this quick slide, and the previous plan is in the upper left hand corner, and again showed kind of two corner retail uses with parking concentrated in the middle along Broadway. Again, with openings through that first floor facade. Again, based on comments received from the Planning Commission during the September meeting, that space is being reworked right now, along with some of the architecture comments that we received. But you can see we moved the parking spaces back to activate that street level first floor.
How did that impact the count?
The parking count, it's probably going to, we're still defining that, but it's probably going to go down a little bit. But again, parking, which seemed to be larger concern a year ago when we met with the Planning Commission, didn't seem to be as much of a forefront issue during the last meeting. Of course, now it doesn't like me to. So this was the previous rendering. I don't have an updated rendering for you today. That's still being reworked by SRA. But as I mentioned, they did meet with HRC last week, and comments that they received were most notably focused around two things. One is they wanted us to change the color palette. They wanted earth tones. And the other comment was to add more articulation and/or bays, for lack of a better term, along Broadway to give it more definition, along those lines. So the applicant and the architects have been meeting a couple times. I know they met today as well. And we're hoping to submit revised application addressing the HRC's comments, the Planning Commission's comments as soon as possible. And so that's really it. I was just here to provide kind of an update. I don't know if there's any other thoughts that have emerged since the last meeting, but we did take the comments to heart and we are addressing them.
Could you go back a couple slides to your plan view?
Yep.
So first thing that jumped out to me,
Yep.
Can you talk about the change in space on the lower left-hand corner there? It looks like there was previously more occupied space than parking space in the lower left.
Yes.
Looks like there's more
Yeah,
parking now.
Just north of the red line.
Yes.
Yeah. Like I said, they just retooled the spaces to be more accommodating to more and retail users. And they had to reconfigure the parking in the aisles to get that in. So yeah, I would think that one retail space in the bottom left-hand corner probably did lose some space, but obviously they're adding that component along the entire face of Broadway. So it's just a reallocation of space in that corner.
Okay, so open it up to commissioner comment. Just make sure you're talking into your mics.
I would say that those changes along the Broadway, that's what I was looking to see is the activation, and not just from a pedestrian standpoint, but also from, an economic standpoint, and making sure that the block is lively for, commerce and people driving and all sorts of uses. Can you just talk us through the 4th Street frontage now? It's a little unclear to me from this site plan. I see the in and out, ingress egress from, it looks like it's labeled G. And then below that, it's a little unclear what's happening. Is that a ramp to go?
Yeah,
the grade?
so before, and again, this might change. This is just
Yeah.
the latest concept. It's still being refined. In fact, I know they were with the estimators today trying to make all the numbers work. But before, we had the loading zone up here, which we still do. Exit through here, but this before kind of carried through as an entire, aisleway. The way that we have the parking now, it kind of comes in and meanders down in through just to accommodate as much parking as we can with the loss of the space that we had again along Broadway, and some of the other interior configurations that we had. But I wouldn't focus too much on where the stair tower is, for example, and the trash, because that's going to change. I know they were still working out some of the structure and space planning today on that.
Okay.
But if that's helpful, that's why it just looks a little bit different. It's a slightly different configuration on the entrance and exiting of the in space. Sorry for the feedback.
My only other comment, and I'm not expecting, excuse me, I'm not expecting to see this now because you're not showing the sidewalk and other changes like that, but just making sure that, pedestrian improvements are made in the right of way, and then street trees and things like that we always look for to make sure that the site is complete would be, obviously we'd look to have those before.
Yep. Yeah, and as we talked before, I know we're replacing all those sidewalks and stuff, so we'll certainly take a look at that. I'm just waiting to get the newest footprint so I can plug that into the site work.
Sure,
Get my
one step at a time.
grades.
Other commissioner comments?
I have comments.
By all means.
And I'm just checking the meeting minutes to see the level of detail that is included regarding the exterior material palette. Could you share with me, or could any of the commissioners go into a little more detail about what the feedback was at the September meeting about exterior material palette? Not about color, but what is the material?
I don't think we had much comment in terms of material choice.
No, and I think there was some division. The proposal back in September was intending to kind of carry forward the marble of Freer Building exterior down that block on 3rd Street. So I don't know if there was an exact material choice. That was the idea of the rendering.
I think we also were waiting for you and also looking for feedback from the HRC. So we didn't get too far into architectural details.
I like
Opinions were mixed on how that style choice.
I liked the spirit of what they were trying to do, just maybe needing to be tweaked a little bit. I liked the idea of carrying the natural materials into a modern direction, but maybe in a different way, or doing it with different material.
Yeah, my concern, I actually think it's a rather attractive building. My concern is this site. It's such a prominent site, and to have a building of this scale clad with a material that, and I'm not saying it's not durable, but it has zero monumental quality to it. It's thin, it doesn't have texture. We all know that. We see the 5-story apartment buildings all through Troy clad with the same material, some prettier than others, but I'm just reacting to the fact that it's kind of just like all the other 5-story apartment buildings. And this site is it's so special, and everybody's been waiting so long for something to happen here.
Sure, and I will carry that to the architect, because I can't speak to material choices on that, but I can also tell you this is a very tricky project or the financials to work on. It's a complicated building, given the center space that the city owns and other competing factors. So I would just caution everyone to just be of the mindset also, while it is a prominent area of Troy, there is a certain cost at which I can guarantee that, the numbers won't work for the applicant. And certainly what we're staring at right now is nowhere near what we're even proposing in this iteration in terms of,
Okay.
It's kind of a trade-off, right? I mean, right now it's a 2-story brick facade facing, Broadway. But he's got to retool the materials and the colors anyways, based on the HRC comment. So, but I will certainly carry that comment forward.
Okay. And part of my concern is actually regarding the HRC's comments, which is I'm one architect, I'm one commissioner, I'm one taxpayer in Troy, but and also I will look at this building every day until I retire. So I'm reluctant to try to use a historical color palette on a building that is not historical in its architectural detailing at all. I actually think it's quite attractive the way it is, and I would move in a direction that accentuates its differentness. But that particular point isn't for you to react to, I understand.
Right. And you can understand too that the architect who's designing this is kind of betwixt and between, because the planning commission generally, while they wanted some changes to the program, I think favorably viewed some of them, the architecture that was previously proposed, but obviously the HRC also has to agree and approve to anything that is proposed. So we're trying to walk a fine line.
Okay, we don't have a color palette. Am I missing something? A color palette that's showing us the different materials? and
No,
what
not
the
at this
colors
point.
are?
We did have one for the previous submission, but obviously with the comments that were received at HRC, that's being redone.
Okay.
Just one comment, and Andy can correct me if I'm wrong. The HRC doesn't have to agree to anything. The HRC provides recommendations to this commission, and this commission makes the ultimate determination. So they are not a decision-making body.
Thank you very much, Aaron. So I'm going to ask you to indulge me. So while I talk to my fellow commissioners, because this is the only way that we can communicate
Sure.
is in this public meeting. Do you have opinions that are different from mine? Are you passionate about changes that should be made? I can't dictate here.
Can you go back to the?
I mean, if the question is, should the exterior look like it's brick, it would just be some sort of brick.
Is that helpful?
Should it, right, should it be
Should it?
brick?
Right.
And I think if we're moving in a direction, and I know that the developer isn't gonna like this, but my immediate inclination is make this a masonry building. If that's not possible, let's not use less expensive, more contemporary materials to simulate masonry. Let's actually use those materials to their greatest potential to make something interesting and different that it's not going to be timeless. Let it be 2024.
Do you look at what's there now as simulating? Or are you
No.
saying, okay. That's just want to make sure I was understanding it.
My main comment last time was that because this is such a prominent location in the middle of downtown in the historic district, that I wanted to see something that was worthy of the location. I didn't think that was. And I'm interested in seeing what they come up with before I shoot my mouth off about yay or nay. But that was my main concern.
My thought was, and I do mean sincerely to defer to Suzanne and you, Sarah, who have a lot more architectural knowledge than I do, but I agree with that kind of line of thinking, but I also think that, this building doesn't have to be the most prominent on the block. It could step back and allow the Quackenbush building or the Freer building or the Kennedy Hall or to shine more. And if cost is a driving factor in the design, that might be an easier route. I think this building has, or the design that's shown here does have a expiration date. I think that it does look like a lot of other buildings that we see in new buildings in Troy and buildings all over the country. And those are, I think, concerns. So.
Yeah, like James, I tend to defer to Suzanne and Sarah's architectural knowledge. What I liked about Sarah's comments just now is precisely saying that, I think that the shortcomings of the design we looked at last month were the ways in which it looks a lot like other similar apartment buildings. And I think the more interesting, the more unique it is, the better situated for the location. So I personally would like to see it continue, as I think your comments last month said, connecting the history to the future of downtown Troy. I think that was a good spirit. I think going in that direction is probably the right direction to go, at least from my opinion.
I second that. And I also agree that I find the building overall to be attractive. I think what I find to be reminiscent of some of the traditional like 4/1 style developments we're seeing are these vertical articulations across the building. I'm wondering if there's a way to change that to differentiate it and not make it look like some of those other projects. I like the color palette as is. Yeah, I also like the entablature. I don't remember last month if I had asked about rooftop space. I'll come back to that, but if we're sticking. Okay.
Yes, you did. Yeah, and I think they were looking at seeing if they could accommodate that. It's not going to probably be the entire rooftop, obviously, but I think, we did talk about that. So I would just say stay tuned for that and see what we can accomplish in the next iteration of this.
The reason I ask about it in this context is wondering what sort of rooftop features might actually be able to affect the look of the building or add character to it or differentiate it in some way. But yeah, if we're sticking to materials look, I'm not opposed to the general spirit of where you're going with it. I think you just need to work on more ways to pull through that sentiment of connecting the history to the future.
I also agree with that. I agree with that comment on reducing the vertical striations. I think that's something that's overdone and doesn't, make a lot of sense to me intuitively. It's not doesn't feel like it feels like it's there just as a design and not as doesn't have a lot of function to it. And we hear about what's there now. We can think about what's there now as context, and I think that is a good example of what I was referring to earlier as modest. If you're walking down Broadway or 3rd or 4th, you're not automatically drawn to the Atrium building, that facade on Broadway specifically. It just being a 2-story brick facade doesn't get a lot of attention, and that's not necessarily an awful thing, I think.
A couple programmatic comments.
Yep.
So as James mentioned, that sidewalk kind of park space, thinking about, maybe some modest ways to encourage that the utilization of that space and seating or just kind of making it a spot for people to gather, especially as the farmers market's not far away. I'm often in that area trying to find a spot to eat if I'm not eating right in the square. I think there's opportunities there. I'm hoping to see in the next revision. And then just going back to the rooftop comment, it also adds commercial value and hopefully enables you to do a little more with the space if you are to use it for some sort of commercial purpose too.
Right. Were you referring to being able to see that there's or tell that there's rooftop activity from the street level?
Maybe,
Yeah.
like a pergola or just sort of some enclosure space, or, you know, you could do it with glass, some sort of glass facade or something up there. I'm just thinking you can tell maybe that there's life up there. Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess you're right. That is maybe what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think the idea that you could tell that there are people up there and vice versa is valuable.
Sarah?
No, thank you.
I also just want to see if Bill has any comments.
Yep, thanks. Good reminder.
Well, thanks for asking. I think that I'm looking forward to seeing the next iteration after all of these different ideas were advanced. I think that the general idea of the project and the plan and the direction it's going is just very exciting. I like it a lot.
Thanks.
Okay.
That's it. No architectural comments there. Just keep going in a good direction.
Okay, if that's it for commissioner comments, I want to see if there's anyone here from the public today to speak on this project. Anyone in the room or nobody on Zoom? Okay.
Yes, I would like to comment.
Yeah, please. If you could state your name and address for the record. You might have put yourself back on mute.
Can you see and hear me?
Yep. Well, we can see your microphone cord or earbuds.
You know what? You're gonna look at the back of my piano, unfortunately, because the camera's swung around. But anyway, this is Jim DeSev. I'm resident up on 10th Street in Troy. I grew up in downtown Troy, and I do really like the idea that the Atrium, when I was growing up, was just considered the bane of Troy's existence. It was, a horrible ending point to really destructive urban renewal that we had in the 60s and the 70s. And I think there's always been this dream that that area can be revitalized and become part of an active and important part of the downtown again. And in theory, I like this design. I would agree that it already feels dated. It already feels like, God, medical buildings and apartment buildings and just everywhere. I don't know if we'll end up calling it like the pandemic or post-pandemic style, but I think the shelf life is so short on the current look that it's already expired. So I would really encourage a change in the materials. The other thing I've noticed on a lot of these new buildings is that the windows are just very small. If you're trying to match the look of surrounding buildings, perhaps readjusting the size of the windows, and I know this is a cost thing, but readjusting the size of the windows to match the surrounding buildings, the Keenan building, Quackenbush building, even the Bank Kitty Corner, would go a long way to changing the feel of it. The other thing, it seems that windows very, very often are now put in the same plane as the exterior face of the building, rather than being set back enough that you feel the sort of heft and depth of the wall. And you do get that a little bit with the setbacks that you have in the design. But I think doing something simple, like even making the windows larger or moving them back, will help the building feel a little bit different than all the other buildings out there, and also start to connect with the building traditions that are all over downtown. The other thing, it's hard to get an idea from the rendering, but it looks like a pretty plain cornice. Was that something that the Historic Review Commission was suggesting gets more embellishment to it? I'm not sure I understood the discussion there. But possibly even lowering that cornice down. This also seems like a huge building. It's hard to tell from the rendering how it will feel next to the surrounding buildings, but it is definitely going to tower over the Keenan building. And it looks like it still is going to tower over the Quackenbush building. So potentially even reducing the scale. It looks like a lot of space between the cornice and the top of the upper windows. I don't know if there's little tricks that can be done to just bring the scale down so it feels in line with the other buildings around. Anyway, thanks so much. I do support the project, and I'm really happy to think that this is going to be changed. But I would really encourage the commission, encourage the developers just to push for better design, and a design that's going to really fit in, and something we can look at in 30, 50, 100 years and go, wow, that's great. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other public comment? Nothing. Okay, back over to the commissioners.
I think that comment about the window size is a good one. I think that's something that nice to see. I disagree on the scale. I know we don't have to go through every part of this person's comments, but I think the scale of the building is appropriate, and I would welcome a large building in our downtown. You know, I don't think our downtown is a place that needs to have smaller buildings or buildings of the same size.
Glad to hear that, James.
I do agree with him about the cornice. It's hard to see what it really looks like because the perspective makes it look like it's almost a hat sitting on top of it. But I mean, a suggestion, older buildings often have cornices with front pieces that would help tie it in more with the rest of the building and lower the scale a bit.
What do you mean by front pieces?
Well, you know, you have your brackets underneath that look like they're holding up the cornice, something.
Talking about
The
like
dentils?
corbels?
Yeah.
Yeah,
like corbels, yeah.
or
So
corbels, yeah.
something, I mean, it doesn't have to be a period corbel because that would look ridiculous, but some kind of iteration of that idea. I mean, these 4/1s, they're so limited, and I do agree with Jim DeSev that they've sort of come and gone. And
Suzanne, make sure you're going into the mic, sorry.
The 4/1s are, I do agree with Jim DeSev, who just said that he thought that their day had come and gone. I really don't know how you're going to fix this because it seems that this is the only kind of apartment building that's being built anywhere. And I would just hope that, I like Sarah's idea of not trying to make it match or fit in, but be special. I mean, we're not going to get a Pritzker Prize here, but I would hope that, you know, we can come up with something good. I really want to, it doesn't have to be old looking. I think Disneyfying is not good, but I just think we can do a little better for downtown Troy.
So I'm divided about the cornice. I mean, I find it somewhat interesting the way it looks like it's floating the way it is in this, at least in this angle. I could also see liking some corbels along it to tie it to the base part. But then as you're speaking about all of it, I was wondering if maybe in the 4/1 concept, there's a way you integrate the past and future as part of that. Maybe somehow the bottom, the lower street level floor has maybe more embellishment, something to it more ornate. And then the top remains kind of the more future forward looking. Finding a way to do that tastefully is the balance, of course, but I don't know, thoughts, Sarah? No pressure.
Well, and I would just add, I mean, Ken's already reworking it. So, you know,
Good point.
see what he comes back with.
I would, let's see, with the programmatic change, let's not critique this anymore and see what.
Yeah,
Sure.
what they
Yeah.
come back
I think
with.
that's fair.
Sure.
Can I ask a question, Suzanne?
Yes.
The buildings that are across the street,
The Quackenbush
um,
on the
it-
left, right?
if we're calling that building a 4/1, what?
No.
No, the building on the left. the
Oh,
new building,
okay.
We're calling that the 4/1,
Uh-huh.
right? That's the term we've used. The building on the right side, is that the Quackenbush?
Yes.
That has a similar look to me, doesn't it? With the first floor that's elevated and then two identical floors over it. I guess the top of it is a little bit more ornamental, which is fit the period at the time, right?
Yeah, it's got a massive
but what-
roof.
I don't know. I'm just,
It's not sitting on this like parking podium.
Okay.
Like the one and then the.
well, because we use 4/1 to describe something that's newly constructed. What would be the term used to describe that building?
Well, you've got your steel frame on the bottom and then it's, you know, wood frame on top and that's what.
So
they
it's the
call
material,
those.
so it's the materials of the
And
actual
general
construction.
construction, which seems to always be that,
There's,
Oh,
it's a
okay.
predictability about the
Yeah.
building type,
exactly.
because it is the least expensive way.
Well, the numbers, yeah, the
Develop.
numbers work. it's financially feasible based on what
Yeah, for a
apartments rent
residential
for.
model, absolutely,
Yes.
unless you can park underground.
And
This is the model.
it's also the ratio. Look at the ratio between the height on the lower floor to the upper floors versus the height on the base of the 4/1, so to speak, model. There's status or importance to the height given at the first floor on the right side.
So much, it's a combination then of materials and scale. Okay.
And I think it's just the predictability of it. I'm just gonna add also that code lets you do this. Code isn't gonna let you add another story and still frame it in wood. So I guess that comes back to money too, but
Is 5/1 not
Which
feasible?
one?
I don't think so.
I think Roddy just touched on something, and you made a good point about not going too far into it with the changes that we're expecting to see, but just seeing that there could be a more prominent first floor when we do see those use changes on the first floor would be great.
Yeah, let's see what you come up with.
I'm just a civil engineer. I'm not the architect. I don't get to do anything that looks nice. So, but thank you very much. I'll take those comments back to the applicant and to the architect. And like I said, they're already meeting and working on that. So we'll hope to have a revised set of plans to you very shortly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're also still within the 30-day period, right? Notice for lead agency. Did we declare lead last?
We send out
Yep.
notice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The notices are out. I don't think there's any action you need to take this evening.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Other than
Thank you.
we're gonna adjourn this application, right?
Do we?
It's open. You can do it officially. It's always tabled until the next meeting.
Okay. You're good with it. We'll just carry on.
All right.
All right. Back to my agenda.
Yeah, they're gone.
Yeah, this is going to be a quick one, right? Because it doesn't appear that there's another applicant present.
I would agree. All right, so PLPC 2022-0094 for 315 Second Avenue was our only item for new business, if I'm not mistaken. I had one crossed out. Yes, thank you. Yep. Okay, so we'll start with 94 just to go in order of number. So. Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Tykara Pitt. I'm here for 315 Second Avenue in Troy. I am working on converting the existing doctor's office that is there on the north side into a daycare center. The daycare would serve children from 6 weeks to 5 years old. Approximately 44 children would be at the school. And that's it. I don't know what else to say.
Okay, I know there was discussion around potential easement. I'm not sure if there's any news on that. Aaron?
Yeah, it's so if anyone's familiar with the property, or I'm sure the commissioners have taken a look at it, the issue we have, and you'll have to remind me of the cross street there. It's a 10, is it 104?
I think it's
What is it?
107.
107.
Okay, so the right of way for 107th Street extends all the way to the bank of the river. This building has been in that location with the parking lot in that area for quite some time. There's no record of any easement or the city granting access to that land or anything like that. So I'm working with Corporation Counsel to find the proper instrument to be filed or agreement to be signed that would monument that parking lot and the responsibilities associated with that parking lot, short of selling the property, which we can't do. So it might take the form of an easement, although that land is not parceled, it's right of way. So it might take the form of an encroachment agreement. We haven't yet figured that out. So any actions that you guys take, the city requests that a condition be added to any actions that be resolved.
Okay.
Yeah, this is 107th Street, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the concerns related to that, and I'm hoping staff can just relay this to Rick or Steve or whoever. And I'm also assuming Steve's thinking of this as, the waterfront access there.
Exactly, right.
Obviously specifically at 107. But yeah, not giving away all the rights to using that waterfront space. So
Yeah, again, we can't. That would be abandoning. There's a number of steps involved.
Right.
The city would have to abandon the right of way. It would then have to be parceled.
Yeah.
A deed created, and then the city can't just sell land to an individual. It
Yeah.
would have to go out. So that's not the process we want to go with. And we obviously want to preserve the residents' rights to access the river from any available points. So we
Right.
have to figure something out.
I understand that that's not on the table. I just want to voice, making sure that, as parking is becoming an allowed use of that space, that it's not going to prevent any trail development in the future.
Aaron, is this issue the reason that the application moved from consent to new business?
It's yes, that's partially it. I wanted to make sure I was able to communicate to you guys that the city requests the planning commission to include that stipulation in any action. Other than that, it would be if there's any public comment, something along those lines. So we didn't have any issue. It's a change of use, which is why it's in front of you guys at all.
There are no proposed modifications to the building or the site, correct? Other than signage?
No, there'll be on the exterior, we're gonna add additional doors from the classrooms and an additional entrance on the north side.
And I see a new sidewalk, which Eric has brought to my attention. Okay.
Yeah. Fencing, does that exist? New fence. There's also a new fence proposed right near that same area.
And the doctor's office is remaining in part of the structure, is that correct?
On the south side, yes.
And are you representing you're not representing them, right? You're only representing the daycare?
Just the daycare. That's correct.
The newly enclosed green space would serve as a play yard for children, I'm assuming. That's why you're
Yeah.
fencing it in.
Yes, it's existing, but we're just gonna put a fence around it.
Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments? Okay, has anyone from the public come to speak for this application? Anyone on Zoom? Nope. Okay, so this is listed for a change of use. So do we need Andy to give us some phrasing for the easement discussion?
It would be a motion to approve the change of use. I would suggest, subject to final approval from the Corporation Council pertaining to any easements necessary to protect the public's interest in the city right.
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, moving to a vote. Bill,
I'm in favor.
James,
Yes.
Suzanne,
Yes.
Anthony,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. The motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
Good
Thank
luck.
you. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay, last item on the agenda was moved from consent as well. PLPC 2022-0096 for 79 11th Street. I see we have somebody on Zoom.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. My name is Joe Pernich on behalf of Redburn Development. Are you hearing me okay?
Yes.
Great. I apologize I couldn't be there in person tonight. We double booked ourselves here at the office. Nevertheless, I'm happy to walk you through the background of this application. So we own and manage 22 college housing units at 79 11th Street. We call it 11th Parallel. It's right across People's Ave from RPI. When we purchased that, we also purchased the neighboring parcel, which was 81 11th Street. We have since merged the parcels in order to do this bit of site work. There was an existing vacant home there that we demoed, I believe, earlier this year. And now we're just looking to pave that vacant part of land and add some ancillary parking for our students that live at the 11th Parallel. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Just pulling it up on maps on my own.
Sure.
What's that structure on? Can you just describe where that structure that was torn down is?
Sure. And I can actually, if I can share my screen, maybe that may help. I can pull up Google Maps.
Go ahead.
It was on the corner of Jacob and 11.
Let's see.
It was the one closest to People's.
Here we go.
So a little bit of background. The reason why the lots were merged was because that zone does not allow for parking to be a principal use. So by merging the lots, the parking is on the lot that has the housing. So that was a way to allow for this.
Looking at the plan, so if you look here, right, and then go down to this one, is that not on the, is it on the other side? Right up.
So Joe, you said that that's the structure 81 right there?
Yep. So this was, and actually on Google Maps, you can still see the house that was there. I think if I go to Street View, you'll see they updated it since we tore it down. Yep. There you go. So there's the vacant parcel that has now become, as Eric mentioned, part of our parcel. There's 11th Parallel. There's the old, actually an old view of the house that was there. Now we're just looking to pave that and add some extra parking. All of this fencing back here will remain, as well as all these trees.
I'm sorry, which trees are you referring to?
These ones here in between the housing and the lots. So these large bushes, trees here, as well as the big guy over here that's outside the fence. There's an existing old stone planter here. We'll clean all this up, put some fresh plants in there and really improve the streetscape as well.
So can you just describe to us how, when you park here, because this is only for the 11th Parallel residents, how would a resident then get to their home?
They will just come right out on here to 11th Street and walk along the retaining wall here, enter either building A or building B, whichever they may live at.
So are those it looks like you have striped parking spots there though, which is.
Yep. So here's sort of here, in the road there, but this is, the traffic here is not very high, right? It's only residents that really drive through here.
It's also not, well, Google has that marked as 11th Street. The street stops right where you see that telephone pedestal, that green box there, or gray box. So that's not actually city street, it's private property.
And knowing, the habits of these students, they'll typically carve a path through some of the trees here. We're not going to build anything like that, but, they'll find the path of least resistance.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious as to why you wouldn't build a path.
Agreed.
That seems like a no-brainer to me.
You'd forfeit 2 spaces.
We certainly can. We certainly can. I'm open to that.
Where would they even forfeit spaces? If they're putting a path right through here?
Right. Those 2 parallel
Oh.
parking spaces.
Yeah, I mean, if it's, we're happy to get rid of these spaces, maybe hash that off as a walking area. We're open to suggestions.
Is there any sidewalk? I thought
There's also a walking path that leads from 11th to People's, correct?
That's correct.
And that's Redburn's doing.
Yep. He did that a couple of years back, and the students use it, just to cut right through across the campus.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. In a similar vein, like just formalizing the routes while you're adding this infrastructure for people to conveniently drive to their residence to, formalize and make it easier for them to walk. Makes perfect sense to do it at once.
Yeah, happy to do so.
As it pertains to landscaping, if I'm looking at the plan view showing the new lot along Jacob, I think I would like to see something dividing out the what's shown as north side of the lot from Jacob Street.
So there is an existing fence, which will remain. I believe that's what you're speaking of. Let's see if I can go down to Jacob. Maybe I'll be able to show it to you. That's a bad angle. Here it is. This red fence borders the whole lot. And once we clean it up with all the shrubs around it, we'll take a good look at it. If we need to paint it, we might. See what the condition is once we get it all uncovered.
And that property in the corner, that's still a separate lot, correct?
This is separate, yeah. So none of that is impacted.
Okay. Any other commissioner comments? Bill, anything?
No, none for me.
So yeah, I would just say, I think there should be a path on both sides of the building. I think formalizing the path on the south side, the west side. I don't know if anybody else has comments on the design of that path, but I think on the east side, it could even just be a 5-foot wide stone dust path that connects to the parking lot. Just because we know that the students are going to be walking back and forth, regardless if that path is, created or not, and making it safer and more accessible would be best. I also just, a question for the presenter is just describing the lighting on either side there. Again, just thinking about comfort and safety.
Yeah, so we have building mounted lighting, which we can certainly add more of. I'm not sure if there's street lighting on this portion. Don't think there is.
On that utility pole.
Oh, yep, there's one right there. So, there's a little bit of lighting, and obviously safety is our top concern as well. And so if we need to, we can either add, off the building, maybe cut it through these trees, or, we're certainly open to adding a light pole in the parking lot if needed.
Yeah, I think adding a light pole to the parking lot and, something downward facing, dark sky compliant.
Yep, of course, absolutely.
And then again, on the east side of the building, I don't know if you have any lighting mounted to the building there, but adding something there so that, residents feel safe and comfortable walking. Because you are tucked away on that side. I'm looking at, excuse me, if you live on that southeast corner of that building, it looks like there's an entranceway. There are two entranceways. So if you park, on the east side of this parking lot, you're probably not going to end up walking all the way around the building to get to that other entrance point. So again, just adding lighting to that east side of the building, some sort of formalized path, making it safe and comfortable for residents.
Absolutely.
I second those comments.
Easy changes.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
I'm good.
Okay. Any members of the public here on this item, on this agenda item? Nothing? Okay. So action for this is, it was consent, right? Okay, so who would do reviews for those? Would that be a condition that engineering would review? If we're asking for those site plan changes?
Review those paths, right?
Aaron's getting angry.
I'm not getting it. No, I don't get angry.
Sure.
Unless it's James. The only thing I just, is that I don't share the commission's mindset all the time on some of these items. So I would recommend that the commission review things that they feel very strongly about, because, my opinion might not be yours, and not because I don't want it to be. It's just, I might think they're addressing your comment and you may feel differently. So you may want to see if there's a laundry list of comments, you may want to review them.
Yeah, I would be comfortable having this come back so we can see an updated site
You,
plan.
you guys have listed, I think, of at least 5 things that you may want represented on a site plan. Because if the applicant comes back and it says that they don't fit or something like that, I would hate to be the bad guy in that instance and make him come back. So it's just easier that you guys do that this evening. You know what I mean?
I'll be the bad guy.
Okay, thank you.
And let's also recognize that it's October 19th. And unless they're ready to mobilize tomorrow, this isn't happening in the fall of 2022 anyway.
Yeah, plants don't stay open for too many more weeks here. So,
Right. So
unless you know
I
a guy.
would suggest there's no great rush.
That's fine.
Okay. Applicant, were you able to hear all that?
I was, yes, and I certainly understand. We were hoping to get approved with at least a condition tonight, so we could try and mobilize there before the paving plants closed. But of course, I understand the commission's concerns and happy to oblige.
Okay, yeah, I think we'd like to see a revised site plan at the next meeting.
Of course.
Okay, so if you're good to present at the next meeting, we can table this until then.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'll take a motion to table.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moving to a vote. Bill,
Aye.
James, Suzanne,
Yes.
Anthony,
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
I vote aye, or yes. Motion passes. Okay, and that's it for items on the agenda. So
Thank you.
I will take a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Good night.
Good night, Bill.
Take care, everybody.